How are we doing, Will?
Very well, thank you.
Good,
On
good.
this lovely day.
Thank you very much for agreeing to be interviewed.
No problem.
Today, so I do appreciate that. So I kind of already explained to you just off the speaker kind of what we're looking to do today. So a couple of questions about Forge Radio, specifically the committee.
Yep.
The way you work, how you work effectively, etc., etc. So kind of just going to roll into it. So we've got a nice easy one to start off with, and I just want you to tell us a bit about the team, tell us a bit about your role within the team, and kind of what your role entails.
So essentially there's 21 of us on committee, and we're a working committee within the Students' Union, so we are basically responsible for running and maintaining the student radio station of Sheffield, which is obviously Forge Radio. And then within that team, everyone's got a different role specific to what the different responsibilities are of the station. So there's in total 21 of us on committee, and I'll give you a rundown of the different positions, and then where I fit into that. So we've got the station manager, deputy station manager, which are essentially our the team leaders. Basically, they sort of oversee most daily runnings of the station. You then got the head of sport and the deputy head of sport. Are responsible for all the sports coverage that the station does and any of the flagship shows related to sport. You've got the head of news, deputy head of news, again similar to sport. They're responsible for any of the news coverage output, and more specifically they are the sort of I guess the leaders of when we do election day for the student officer elections as well. They sort of take charge there. Then you've got the deputy and head of music, again similar to sport and news. They take a role in managing the music output of the station as well. And then you've got, after that, the head of daytime and head of evening. So they're essentially responsible for all the scheduling and sort of recruiting and signing up of different shows at the start of the year, and organising what we call half broadcast, which is essentially when we go into a reading week or we're coming up to a holiday. But our schedule will go down to half of what it is, so we're just broadcasting 9 till 6 or 9 till 7 or whatever. And so we're in charge of that. And so I'm head of daytime, and my counterpart is Simone, who's the head of evening. So we can talk about that in a bit more detail in a bit. And then aside from that, you've then got the head of station sound, the head of station sound, head of production. You've then got a secretary, treasurer, amongst the rest. And then where do we go from there? We go with head of design, head of marketing, and I think if I've probably missed some off, but that's most people. I'll just have a check at.
No, I think you're pretty
list.
much up to 21. I was counting through with you, and we are pretty much there in terms of having covered the team.
Yeah, I'll just have a quick look if I've missed any off.
No, that's fine.
But I'm pretty sure that's it. So everyone is essentially, there's a specific, there's not, although a lot of the roles sound similar, there's it's a lot of difference within it as well. And it's our biggest team we've ever had, because we actually added a new position in our review meeting, AGM, last year.
And that was the head of design, so you split up marketing and design, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so we've also got head of training. And also the head and deputy head of tech as well. So they're responsible for maintaining the studios and broadcast and whatnot, all the complicated technical bits and bobs.
Amazing. Cool. Right. That's a really good start then. So thank
you.
So I mean, we'll just kind of deep dive quickly on your role. So as head of daytime, what does your role entail? What are your responsibilities?
So to summarise, at the start of the year, we are responsible for putting out we have a members group on Facebook. That's how most of our coordination of information around the station gets done.
Okay.
And we do have a stall in Freshers Week as well, which is manned by committee. But essentially, we're responsible for putting the show sign-up form out via a Google document or Google form, and essentially going through that, putting on enough options so that we know what every show is going to be about, and then we'll pull all the answers we get from that form off onto, like we did this year, we put it onto a spreadsheet. We can then look through it and see, okay, we've got so many shows, like panel shows that want to be here, so many specialist music shows that we can put here, or so many daytime shows, whatever. So we look at that and then we put that into the whole schedule. So with the information we take from that, we try and make it like the most varied schedule as we can, with accordance to people's time preferences as well. So you don't end up with a Friday night, for example, you've got like 3 panel shows, one after the other.
Okay, yeah.
So that's essentially our first job, which sounds a lot less work than it actually is. It's quite hard to to put over 100 shows into a schedule and find a time slot that's suitable for everyone. And then we're also, as we're doing that, we're responsible for if we can't find a right time slot for someone, we'll then be in contact with them and arrange around what the member wants in the time slot as well. And then the second of the big responsibilities of our role is that we are in charge of what we call the flagship, daytime and evening shows.
Okay.
So last year they were called The Hour, and we decided to rename them this year to just Forge in the Afternoon and Forge in the Evening. So there are two, much like sport, they've got the Raw Show and Sports Desk. That's their 2 flagship shows, all about sport, etc. So we've got Forge in the Afternoon, Forge in the Evening, and it's essentially if any of the members aren't confident enough or don't fancy taking on the responsibility of having their own show to start off with, they can come and essentially join this team, and it'll be an hour of radio that they don't have to sort of do as much prep for, and they can pick up a lot of the tech along the way, led by me and Simone, and we can sort of teach them that as it goes along. So we're in charge of coordinating those shows. They're every week. The afternoon one, that's 2 till 3 on a Monday, and the evening one is 5 till 6 on a Wednesday. So there, every week we'll put a post on the Facebook group or email around or whatever, and sort of coordinate who's going to be on those shows for the week. And what else? Also responsible for essentially making sure that shows are turning up and adhering to our code of conduct. So all the important, boring media law stuff that's always really fun to talk about. And also, there's one more. Oh yeah, and we are sort of the point of contact. If a show can't do it, they email us. Either if they're a daytime show, they'll email me. So that's 9 till 5 in the day. Or if they're an evening show, if they're later on, 5 till midnight, they'll email Simone. And then probably the last thing that I can think of off the top of my head in terms of responsibility is that we have a strike system, so that if people are continually sort of going against our, like, in inverted commas, broadcast rules, obviously we're not aligned to Ofcom or anything like that, but you have to maintain different, like, certain standards. So if people are continually not abiding by those rules, we have a 3-point strike system, and the head of daytime, head of evening are the second tier of that. So anyone can give a strike. The second strike has to go through us, and then the third strike goes through station manager and deputy station manager as well.
Cool.
So there you go. That's
amazing. Right, cool. So we'll kind of move on to the next part of the interview then. So that's given us some quite interesting insight into your role and also the organisation as well.
Yes.
So we got some stuff there that we didn't actually know. So thank you very much for that.
No problem.
So moving on, how would you say that you currently, within the team, how do you currently set objectives? So do you set goals at the start of the year? Do you set incremental goals as you go on through the year? How do you set those goals in the team?
So one thing we did different this year, because I was on committee last year, one thing we did different this year was that at the very start of the year, after we got elected onto committee at the AGM, about I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks after, what we did was Freya, who is our what's her title? Specialist Development Coordinator, in Medium Performance. So she's sort of our the middleman between us and the students' union, basically.
Yeah.
So if we've got any problems, I think we go through her, and she also helps us sort of pick out our goals for the year and what we're going to aim to achieve as a committee. So at the very start of the year with Freya, we had a big sort of I guess you could call it a meeting, but what we did was we decided what our main goals were as individuals on committee, and then what our main goals were as a committee in general as well for the year. So that really helped with sort of seeing where we wanted to take things through the year, because obviously we've got a lot of big events coming up as well, so it's sometimes easy to forget about. We are, at the end of the day, we are there to get people involved in Forge Radio, and be sort of encouraging for the members, not just sort of focusing on the big events like Varsity and E-Day as well. So we said that we were going to be like member focused, and bringing getting the best possible experience for the members of Forge Radio as well. So we sat down and we made a big timeline of where we were going to be in the year and what we expected to have achieved or wanted to achieve by then. So that was at the very start of the year, and then I guess going forward through setting goals throughout the year. Obviously, we have weekly meetings as a committee. Not weekly meetings. Fortnightly meetings as a committee.
Okay.
So we're all there every week, and we'll do a thing called committee catch up, where in every meeting everyone on committee gets a chance to say where they're up to with certain things, and if they need any help with anything, or they've got any new ideas that might want to put forward to the rest of the committee.
Okay.
Essentially, so we'll do that. And then any goals that the station manager or deputy station manager thinks, or any important points that need to be put through to the rest of the committee, either things that have come up over the last week, or if people have mentioned something in a GM, which is a general meeting, they go between committee meetings. So they're again an information meeting for the members. They'll be put forward in committee meetings, and it's just really a chance to discuss where we are with certain goals throughout the year, where we think we're going, and what we could be doing better or worse as a committee.
Awesome. Cool. I mean, so what sort of role do you have in the actual setting of those goals? Do you play quite an active part? Are you able to suggest goals for other people, for the team, the wider team, or is it more of a top-down approach?
So we're not a top-down approach, although our roles would suggest that. Essentially, what we have to remember for the Forge Radio Committee, we always say that everyone on committee is a committee member first, then their role.
Okay.
So what we mean by that is we are focused on being a committee member as a helping hand, and as someone who can be there, whether they're here in their own time or in their office hours. So again, just to clarify what that is, office hours, we'll do an hour a week of us dedicated to being here amongst. We spend longer than that here anyway, in reality, but it's essentially a time where members can come to us with any problems or anything, and we're there to help them basically. So we're a committee member first, not our role. So it kind of means that we're focused on, I guess just being there as a helping hand and a point of contact for members to come to, and then obviously that's our main responsibility is that, and then our second coming under that is our role itself, and obviously each person will have a different role in that team. So whether it's the head of production who's responsible for maintaining sort of the adverts that we do throughout the year, or the head of station sound that will be responsible for creating different jingle packages and audio packages that will enhance our sound quality. But essentially, rather than it being a top-down, everyone shares the same responsibility as a committee member, that they are, again, this point of contact for the members, essentially. So that's a sort of a shared responsibility. But then obviously that some roles are more leadership-based. For example, station manager, deputy station manager. They sort of lead the team and make sure everything's going according to plan, whilst others, so like myself, head of daytime, so it's my responsibility to sort of keep the schedule in check, and making sure that all the daytime programs, making sure that people's ideas are developed enough if they need any help with anything, and really it's quite a synchronized team in the way that everything sort of overlaps with each other. So if I get an email off someone saying that someone new wants to join, I'll then forward that on to, say, the head of training, who'll then take that and set that up with a training session for someone, and then it'll come back to me. Then I'll schedule them into the schedule, and then through them being a part of Forge Radio, they'll get to know other people on the committee as well. So if they want to get involved in the sports team or the news team or the music team, they'll get to know those people there. So really, it's sort of a all-encompassing. The team's all-encompassing in the fact that everything sort of overlaps with each other, and that it's all our main responsibility is to be a member of committee that can help lead the members to getting the most out of Forge Radio as possible.
Cool. Right. So, I mean, in sort of the AGMs, the committee meetings, all the times that you are together as a group, do you feel comfortable in challenging maybe other colleagues' views? Do you feel comfortable suggesting goals?
Yeah, I mean, it's our committee meetings are quite informal, so it's quite easy for people to, if they've had an idea or if they think something that we're doing could be done slightly better. It's quite easy to sort of speak up and say that. There's not really any fear or anything that you're gonna sort of annoy anyone or tick anyone off. So that's like sort of everyone on committee always gets to be, because you're spending a lot of time with people and doing events throughout the year, you get to be quite good friends with people, and which it does make it easier. And again, if someone is struggling with something, that's when it'll be brought up in the fortnightly meetings, where we can say, or if the station manager or deputy station manager has a little word before a meeting or something, that person can then feel that confident enough to come to the meeting and say, I'm struggling with this, I need a bit of help, is anyone around to sort of give me a hand, sort of thing. So it's quite easy to ask for help or suggest that some things, some new ways of doing things that might improve things.
Awesome. Cool. Would you say currently there are any drawbacks to the way that you set the objectives? I mean, if you were going to change something about the process, what would you change?
What in terms of just like setting goals through the year?
Yeah. So obviously, you've kind of what you've spoken about was the meeting at the start of the year where you set those overarching goals, and then you have your fortnightly meetings to kind of discuss further. Is there anything you'd change with that? Would you?
Yeah, it's quite. I mean, everything's sort of doing that this year has worked really well, and I think a lot of it is obviously it's fine saying sort of, we want to achieve this year, but then there's a difference between saying that and actually doing something. So I think what really does help. One thing I would change is if we had, we are doing it now, I think. But one thing in our committee meetings, it would help if, as well as having minutes, we had at the end of, at the bottom of those minutes to summarise like action points of what has been said and what people said. Say what people said.
Okay. They
will do during the next 2 weeks. Oh, that's my phone going off. People doing in the next couple of weeks or so to. Make sure that like things get followed up and actually done, rather than just being left as like this thing that was said in a meeting.
Bit more accountability, maybe.
Yeah, I guess a little bit more accountability, but again, it's just going back to the point of making sure that both you've taken on the responsibility as a committee member there to help people and also to fulfill your role. So if you can get a good balance between those, and then accountability through the minutes of different meetings to make sure things get followed up.
Amazing.
But that's what we're doing now, and it's working well.
Cool. I mean, I'm going to ask you to think of an example for this one.
Mm-hmm.
So can you think of an example when one of your colleagues or someone else in the committee had some feedback, and it could be positive, negative, either way, and it had an effect on the objective setting process or on a process in the radio?
It's a very good question. Think about this case study. So as in I guess, sort of feedback that has an effect on how the team's working, sort of thing. Yeah. Well, I think one big thing for the committee every year, for especially last year I was on committee and this year on committee, after we've done sort of a big event, say like an open day where we do an outdoor broadcast, or we do varsity, which is basically a week of continuous live broadcasts, so and AED as well, which is non-stop 24 hours of student officer coverage, which is more than anyone should have to endure of that. But yeah, so when we do these big events, these big live streams of different things that vary in what sort of content they are, it's a lot of work, and people can get very tired and sort of can sort of start to flag a little bit, and people start sort of I've been guilty of this where I've put sort of forge before my own health, so to speak. But when we do big events like that, it's when we hear feedback at the end of it where the station manager or deputy station manager will come to us and say, yeah, that was phenomenal, and that helps like team morale, and we'll also get things back from like the sports clubs who'll be really sort of grateful that we've covered their sport, or people who work in the union who are always really impressed by what we do. So that's positive. That's the positive side of it. So that helps the team work well together and feel more sort of successful in a way.
Okay.
And then the not necessarily a negative side, but maybe sort of some constructive feedback is where maybe things in the week, if generally it's always reminding people that as a committee member, going back to the point about committee member first, then their role, it's reminding people that that they have that responsibility, because through the week we'll get members coming in, and they might be new members, or they might be members who have not necessarily used say a piece of equipment or something before.
Okay.